Everybody, how's everybody doing? It is early in the morning. Crawford versus Canelo has been completed, and we've had history being made. So we've had history made. Canelo versus Crawford is completed, and we're going to do a little discussion on Canelo versus Crawford. And I told you guys after this fight, I would explain to you why I believe that Crawford would be able to take Canelo's punches, and that weight would not be a big issue in this fight. And I also wanted to tell you that I would say this after Crawford wins. And now you guys know that Crawford won by unanimous decision, 116, 112, 115, 113, 115, 113. So we're going to begin this discussion right now. I don't, this is a spontaneous stream. It'll last maybe an hour, 2 hours. Um, but I want to go into it because after seeing the fight and watching it about two more times, I can tell you that there are a number of things that you guys need to know. And there's a reason why I have never bet against Terrence Crawford, and I don't think anybody's ever going to beat him. You know, Crawford's going to stay undefeated. He's going to be what he is. But first, let's talk about the significance of what has just transpired and what we have witnessed, because this is history in the making. Terrence Crawford is now three-time undisputed champion at super lightweight, welterweight, and now, believe it or not, three weight classes up at super middleweight. He is the new undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. And what is the repercussions of that? Well, Terrence Crawford has just fought, pound for pound, one of the greatest pound for pound fighters of our era in Canelo Alvarez. But it's not just that Crawford has established and cemented that he is the pound for pound king, but it is also that now Terrence Crawford is the face of boxing. Canelo's biggest payday of his career has been against Terrence Crawford, as Errol Spence's biggest career has been against Terrence Crawford. And in exchange for Terrence Crawford beating Errol Spence and now beating Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford is inheriting now the fame, the prestige, and also the accolades that go with what those fighters had. And now he's also winning over fans as well. So Terrence Crawford is not just the pound for pound king in boxing, but now he is the face of boxing. And he now inherits from Canelo Alvarez, as he did inherit from Errol Spence, that cachet and that cash. So the next time Terrence Crawford fights, they're going to have to give him serious money to face the next opponent. Because now, like Floyd Mayweather, who inherited becoming the cash cow of boxing from Oscar de la Hoya, Terrence Crawford has now inherited the cash cow status from Canelo Alvarez, as well as he has inherited the face of boxing from Canelo Alvarez, as well as now he is the undisputed pound for pound number one fighter in the world. So like how Floyd got all those accolades, Terrence Crawford, at the age of 38, has finally gotten his just due, and he has all those accolades as well. So this is the repercussions. It's history in the making. Canelo Alvarez was the first undisputed super middleweight champion of the world in what everybody said was his best weight class, in which he performed and had accolades. In addition, Canelo Alvarez is going to go into the Boxing Hall of Fame as Terrence Crawford. And now Terrence Crawford goes into the Boxing Hall of Fame for being the first three-time undisputed male champion in the history of the four-belt era in boxing. This is an amazing feat. And the crazy thing about it is that he had to jump up two weight classes from super welterweight to accomplish this against a fighter who was dominating that division. So, who himself moved through a number of weight classes himself, four divisional champion. Now, Canelo Alvarez should not be ashamed. The way how he fought in this fight was quite great boxing by him. Uh, he did everything he could possibly do to show what he was about. I thought his conditioning was pretty good as well in this fight. He paced himself pretty well. He was pretty comfortable in terms of his conditioning. The problem with him was that he couldn't really impose himself on Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford established range very early in this fight, had Canelo Alvarez occupied with his jab from the get-go. And the interesting thing about what Crawford did, I think the first shot that Crawford landed was a jab, actually, was he also made Canelo respect him. And it wasn't particularly respect his power per se, as the quickness at which he could throw combinations. And the combinations were knockout combinations. He had knockout intentions later. Now, the fight initially was a tactical fight for, I think, the first 6-7 rounds. And then it became a pretty much a blow for blow contest in which Terence Crawford and Canelo really started to rumble from round 8 all the way down to the final round. But Canelo, you could see he was tiring. He would do certain trades up to a certain point, and then, of course, Crawford would end the trades. Crawford fought mostly from the southpaw stance. He pushed Canelo back at times. At times, Canelo tried to bait him in. As I said, he stepped around Canelo. He was circling Canelo. He wasn't moving excessively or anything like that. Was Canelo the bigger guy in there? Yes, he was. Nonetheless, not by much. And it reminded me kind of like Triple G Canelo, kind of like that. And Terence Crawford, seemed at home in there. Really started to tag up Canelo in rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12, throwing combinations to the head and to the body. Even on the inside, when they were on the inside, he did some really good inside work as well. Canelo landed his patented left hook every now and then, but he always seemed to step behind Terence Crawford. He seemed more reactionary than he was proactive, and he tried to be proactive. But I think Terence Crawford's jab, and also the fact that Terence Crawford had such sharp counters and would counter him, he would counter Canelo's counters. He caught Canelo a couple times with some left hands and some right hooks, and those shots probably would have knocked out somebody else. But Canelo was he was irritated, and also he was somewhat hesitant to just go in there and get buzzed stung like that, because Crawford was stinging him. Started piecing them up really well in trades in the 11th, 10th, and 12th rounds. So really, Crawford was just putting them together, putting the shots together, head to body and all of that stuff. And Canelo was still trading back at him, but he wasn't really landing much of anything. And a lot of the shots that people claim Canelo landed on Crawford, most of them didn't really hit him. He was blocking it or something. Now, having said that, Crawford did get hit with a good body shot, and he acknowledged the body shot. I think it was in round 8 or 7, one of those rounds. Crawford did acknowledge the body shot that Canelo hit him. The other time, he was sort of riding the punch, circling out, so it didn't really do much to him. There was a headbutt in the fight. I think it was in round 9 or 10 or one of those later rounds. There was a headbutt, so Crawford got cut over his eye. But other than that, and Canelo's eye was a bit swollen from all those jabs that Crawford was hitting him with. But for the most part, this fight had some fireworks in it, especially coming down the stretch. It was fireworky. But Terence Crawford seemed to win all the trades. All the trades that happened, Terence Crawford seemed to win it. I think that the judges were very gracious in giving Canelo so many rounds. I thought Canelo didn't win as many rounds as they were giving him. But when you're in cash cow boxing, that will happen. I thought that Crawford won at least out of the 12 rounds, he won at least 8 out of the 12. This was a convincing win by Terence Crawford. And he finished the show really hard and strong in the exchanges. Was there anybody who was buzzed? Maybe buzzed a little bit. Canelo was buzzed a little bit. I think it was in the 11th or 10th or 11th round when Crawford caught him with a combination, and Canelo was buzzed a little bit. But I didn't see Canelo getting knocked out, and he didn't get knocked out. And by the way, Canelo had some good defense. Crawford was missing a lot of shots too. I think the landing percentage for both of them was like in the 20s, 20 something percent. So Canelo has good defense, and he showed that he is what he is. He's really that guy. All right. So it wasn't the separation between the two of them came when Canelo started to sort of fatigue a little bit. He wasn't throwing as much in the trades, and of course Canelo would end throwing his trades, and Crawford still hitting him. Crawford still doing his thing. Crawford was the fresher of the two. He seems as though Crawford was getting better and better as the fight was going on, and he was beating up Canelo more and more. So it was one of those fights where Terrence Crawford, y'all were asking the question, would Terrence Crawford be able to take Canelo's punch? Yeah, he took his best punch. He took a right hand to the head, I think. He was kind of riding it out too and circling out. But he was able to take Canelo's punches. And again, if you're a boxer, nobody going to hit you flush. You're going to ride the punch at least. You're going to roll your body and ride the punch. Even when Crawford hit Canelo with a solid left hand, you saw Canelo spin his head back because he's riding the punch. And Canelo actually they both weren't really that fast. Both of them had round about the same amount of speed. The difference was Crawford was varying his jab. But both of them were varying looks. They were changing stances. They were varying looks. Sometimes they'd mirror each other. It was a lovely, tactical, classy boxing fight in which they started to explode and really get nasty with each other from rounds 8 until round 12. And it was quite a trade. I mean, these guys were throwing bombs at each other and they were going hard at each other. But the guy who was in control of the fight for most of the fight was Terrence Crawford. He was basically setting the terms. When he, sometimes he'd go into, he would start trading with Canelo hard in the center of the ring, and he would back off and circle Canelo, and sometimes he would back himself up into the ropes, and set a trap for Canelo, and then pivot out with a check right hook or tie him up or whatever. So Crawford seemed to be the guy in control. Canelo lifted Crawford off the ground. He lifted him off the ground. I think that was in round 7 probably. And Crawford returned the favor by, turning Canelo and lifting him off one leg, and sort of torquing him, but not too strong, but just kind of torquing him one way. You could see Crawford really, his wrestling came into play, and if he had to tie you up, he tied you up. Both guys had just elite level IQ, elite level, very quality boxing fight. This was a quality boxing fight in which Canelo ended up having to kind of box Crawford because he couldn't bang with him, because if he was to try and walk in there, he'd get stung up and then he wouldn't find Crawford there. So it was kind of I wouldn't call it a Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard fight. It's more like a James Toney, sort of kind of Roy Jones Jr. fight. But I would say this. I would say that Canelo has nothing to be ashamed of. Even though he lost this fight, and convincingly so, I think that he put on a great performance. His defense was on point. People say he has a hell of a chin. I don't think he has a hell of a chin. I think his defense is on point. Canelo has very good defense, underrated defense. And his defense was in play there. Of course, Crawford had great defense. And people talking about him taking shots. There was a body shot that Canelo landed on him, though. He acknowledged that shot. He was like, yeah, good shot, brother. Good shot. That was a good shot. Canelo tried to go back to that shot, and he got countered by Crawford for it. But the point I'm making is that, Canelo's a classy champion, and probably he's going to feel a way about losing because, of course, you go into fights to win. But when he looks back on this, he put up a hell of a performance. I thought that Crawford actually would do a lot more to him, and I thought he was going to fade late. He did fade, but not to the extent that he couldn't put on a hell of a performance. Even even though they were trading left and right, and Canelo was trying to stop Crawford in the 12. He's trying, I think his quarter had some urgency in it, and he was trying to get there. Even then, he wasn't reckless with his punches that he was throwing, so that Crawford could counter him at will and really do something to him, daze him or something. And I did think he got buzzed. I think it was in the 11th round when Crawford caught him with, I don't know if it was a check right hand or what, but he caught him and then he followed up on it. But Canelo got back his bearings. So let's talk about a bunch of things. There's a bunch of things I want to talk to you guys about. I can't believe I'm already 15 minutes in. Shout out to everybody out there. So the people who were saying that Canelo was going to knock out Crawford, you got to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. And I even said it myself. To knock out a defensive fighter, you got to be a defensive fighter that understands the game really, really well. And I just didn't see that happening. I didn't see Canelo knocking out Crawford. I didn't see Crawford knocking out Canelo. Could I have seen Crawford dropping Canelo? Well, I thought he would. He did hit Canelo with a combination that usually puts down other fighters. He caught him with a straight left right hook, come back with a left. He hit him with a 3-punch combination. And that motherfucker went nowhere. He went nowhere. He did move back. He moved back, right? But the point was, Canelo's reflexes is very quick because he caught him here and he rolled it this way. He caught him back this way. He rolled it this way, and he caught him back this way, and he rolled it this way. He rolled it 3 ways. Trust me, nobody got a chin like that. Nobody got a hell of a chin. It's the way, the defense. When you ride a punch this way and you ride it back this, because you expect a punch to come back this way, the hook. So you ride it back this way and you ride it back this way. Meanwhile, you're also rocking back and trying to dip under the shot and come back, right? Canelo's a hell of a fighter, man. He's a hell of a fighter. And you could see improvements to his game. And some of y'all will say, oh, he's old. He looked old. He didn't look old in that fight. In fact, in my opinion, he was under pressure from the get-go. He was fighting an uphill battle. And this motherfucker kept his cool. He kept his calm. He wasn't flustered at any point. He paced himself very well. So Canelo showed so much improvement from the Canelo I knew. And he sort of surprised me in his loss to Terence Crawford. He was outmatched in terms of skill and in terms of what the dimensions of Crawford. Crawford kept him sort of on the outside most of the time at the end of his jab. And then when he was ready, he had him on the inside. He fight him on the inside, tying him up and fighting him and stuff like that. Inside fighting, which Crawford's very good at doing. So Crawford kind of denied him that mid-range where Canelo really does his best work. So, Crawford took things away from Canelo and then he applied his own thing to the game. And again, like I said before, the problem with Canelo, and he still needs to work on this, even though he didn't do too bad, he did better than I expected, was he has to work on his foot cardio more. He has to, right? He's explosive and all of that, but he still has to rest. And you can see Crawford resting when Crawford was fainting him and stuff, and Crawford was posturing. Crawford was catching his breath. And similarly, by similar means, Canelo sometimes he would stop putting the pressure on Crawford, back up, and put his high guard up and be watching that Crawford to see what he's going to do. And he's setting a trap. Meanwhile, he's also resting. So the veteran moves. You could see these are 2 veteran fighters with a lot of experience between them, and it was an intriguing fight, and I'll break down some more on the fight in time. It was actually a classy, brilliant throwback fight in which they threw bombs, man. They was throwing with mean intentions from the 8th round to the 12th round. Things got really heated really fast. But I gotta say, these guys are a class act, and I can understand why Canelo's on the pound for pound list. I think I understand why he's been a pound for pound top 10 fighter for many, many years. It's because of the quality that he brings to the table. And even in this loss to a guy, the difference between them, the separation, again, Crawford used his attributes. He used his length very, very well. And he also dictated on the inside how he wanted to do trades. So when he was deep in the pocket, body to body, he had an answer for everything that Canelo brought to the table. And Canelo respected his power. You could tell he respected his power in the sense that Crawford don't have a one punch power, but when he throws combinations, you gotta watch out for those combinations, because if you're not, defensively sharp, you could get hurt really bad. And he did get buzzed. He did get buzzed in round, I think was 11. Was it 11 or 12? He did get buzzed. So, you do have to stay sharp. It reminded me of Floyd. But Crawford, in terms of Crawford moved up 2 weight classes. We saw him push back Canelo a little bit. We saw him do little different things as he was fighting. But the thing that really impressed me was how sharp and how quick he was compared to Canelo, and the combinations, how they came one after the other, and they varied. And I think that is what made Canelo pretty weary of him. And Canelo couldn't just, he realized he couldn't just storm in on Crawford without getting stung. And not just stung, but he's not going to get his get back either. Crawford just be piecing him up all night if he was just to storm in there. So he was very technical, was very tactical, and he was applying smart pressure. People say, well, we didn't see a lot of jabs from Canelo. He had some jabs in there, but Crawford took away the jab by using his probing jab. So he was using that probing jab to occupy Canelo so he couldn't see the target, so he couldn't pop his jab. And while Canelo tried to dip to throw his jab below Crawford's jab, Crawford would dip with him. So Crawford would dip with him, and that he would nullify that angle that Canelo wanted to use to jab through. So it was a lot of things going on in there that they were mirroring one another. There was all kinds of things going on in there. If we have to discuss boxing, this was quite an intriguing fight. As intriguing, I think, as Mayweather versus Pacquiao, where Pacquiao was much a combinational fighter, and Floyd Mayweather was able to neutralize that, whereas Canelo was more of a pot shotter, and Crawford took the role of the combinational fighter, and Canelo was not able to neutralize that. And what's interesting about it is the way how Dimitri Bivol, the way how Terrence Crawford, and the way how Floyd Mayweather beat Canelo are 3 different ways. But the one thing they have in common is the ability to move in that ring with a certain degree of conditioning, whereby I can outmove you. I can outmaneuver you. That is, I can outstep you laterally, forward, back, in range, outside of range. I have active feet. You did not know, if you notice, even though Crawford stood in front of Canelo and he was right in front of him, you would notice that his feet were very agile. That is to say, if he had to step around Canelo, he'd step around him. If he needed to move one way or another, he'd move one way or another. If he just had to inch back a little bit, he'd do it. You have to have those active feet. The foot cardio in boxing is so important. Canelo's now paying attention to that somewhat. And even then, he still has to take breaks. He's not consistent with that. That is his problem. He is James Toney, and this is the limitations of James Toney. The problem with James Toney was his feet. Yes, he can do inside pivots. He can do those kinds of things. Yes. But when it comes to like stepping forward or stepping back or just making those minor adjustments, those quick little minor adjustments, he don't have it. And he's now starting to work on that. And that's why Crawford, it was easy work for Crawford, because I say easy work, but it wasn't an easy fight. Okay. But you know what I mean? Crawford always will have that foot cardio over Canelo. And if you got foot cardio over Canelo, even Caleb Plant made it a tough fight for Canelo. But again, Canelo kept his composure. And the other tricky thing that Canelo did with Caleb Plant was wailing on his spleen area. So every time they get in a clinch, he would be able to lock him up a certain way. He couldn't do that with Crawford because Crawford knew how to maneuver Canelo in a clinch because he's done wrestling. So he knew how to maneuver with Canelo. And where Canelo wanted to like freeze Crawford, couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Canelo's jab, Crawford's jab is kind of unpredictable. He wasn't timing. And then Crawford's timing, he got a kind of awkward timing where he moved his body a kind of way, bouncing and bumping, but yet he can harmonize with Canelo on certain things and mirror Canelo, and then Canelo can mirror him back as Canelo started to find his timing. The problem was range. Canelo fights at mid-range. Terrence Crawford fights inside, mid-range, outside. He can do it all. And so you saw a combination of different things when Terrence Crawford was fighting Canelo Alvarez, showing you just how versatile Crawford is and how honed his skills are. And I saw one or two whip shots where he threw these awkward looking shots, these whipping shots, those uppercuts up the middle that he set up. Brilliant stuff. I mean, Canelo didn't see them uppercuts, and that's another reason why Canelo was like kind of hesitant to just storm in there. He knew he had to tactically go in there to make the trades and stuff that he wanted to do. I thought it was a fantastic performance by Terrence Crawford once again. So let's talk about how Terrence Crawford was able to withstand Canelo's power. For the most part, swole up some guy's hands and all of this stuff and arms and shit. Why that didn't happen with Terrence Crawford? Well, first of all, I told y'all I was going to say this, but before I go into that and I explain that, shout out to 24 of you. If you guys want to say anything to me, it's okay. If you're a Canelo fan and you were supporting Canelo, your boy did well. Your boy did very well. Canelo represented Mexico very well. He didn't get the W, but he boxed his ass off, and he fought his ass off. And I'm going to tell you this. Had it been some other fighter coming up in weight to face Canelo, he done already vanquished them. He'd either knocked them out or beat them up. But you're talking about Terrence Bud Crawford, pound for pound, the #1 fighter in the world. And this is what happens. Both guys are going to go down in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Somebody had to lose the fight. It wasn't going to be Bud. Nobody's going to beat Bud in this generation. Nobody could beat Floyd Mayweather, and nobody's going to beat Terrence Bud Crawford. It is what it is. Joseph Garcia said he outboxed him for sure. He even stood in the middle of the ring toe to toe with him. He even pushed him back, man. He pushed him back. He had Canelo on the back foot for a little bit. Terrence Bud Crawford's a different guy. I told y'all this was a no-brainer for me. Just like when I told you Dimitri Bivol would beat Canelo. I know what Dimitri Bivol brought to the table. I know what Terrence Crawford brings to the table. And if you're not on your P's and Q's with Terrence Crawford, he drop your ass. Okay? If Canelo didn't have the defense that he had, Bud would have dropped him. Okay? Trust me, them guys was throwing some bombs. From 8 to 12, they wasn't playing around with each other. Okay? They had mean intentions on those punches, but it's just their defense was so good that a lot of those punches missed. But I'm telling you right now, them boys bad. Them boys bad. Okay? And you looked at two of the greatest fighters of our era fight each other. All right? So, as I said before, there's no shame in losing to Terrence Bud Crawford because nobody's going to beat Terrence Bud Crawford, period. Okay? Canelo's been beaten before. But you know something? The thing that I really appreciate, and shout out to Joseph Garcia for making your comment. You know something that I want to say to everybody? Canelo shocked me. Canelo actually boxed better than I expected. Okay? Joseph Garcia says Crawford could legitimately go down to 160 and 154 and unify. It's up to him, what he wants to do. I think he should stay at 168 and defend his title. And then whatever he wants to do from there. Because I'm telling you, okay, so this is the thing that y'all don't understand, okay? So let me explain something to you. Bud last fought against the 154-pound champion. I forgot what his name is. Guys, help me out with the name of the champion. That was 2 years ago. Now, y'all said Bud was out of boxing for 2 years. And then Bud started a campaign to get Canelo 2 years ago. What do you think Bud was doing in that interim time? Because I'm going to tell you why Bud was prepared for this fight. What do you think Bud was doing during those 2 years? What do you think he was doing? And remember, he's an older fighter. Now, older fighters, this is the thing y'all don't understand. It's boxing, so I'm going to explain y'all a little something. Older fighters put on weight. As you get older, you get heavier, okay? So it's a natural thing over 2 years for Bud to grow into a super middleweight. He put on weight the right way. Go watch Timothy Bradley's interview. right? So while those 2 years of boxing was going on and Bud wasn't fighting, he was training for Canelo. You understand? He was getting ready for Canelo. That's right, Joseph Garcia. He was getting ready. I'm gonna tell y'all another thing. There's three factors why Bud was able to do what he did with Canelo. The first one was he had 2 years to get his body developed into a super middleweight. The second reason, and that's why he said he don't care about no catch weight. The second reason that Bud was able to deal with Canelo is because now Bud don't have to cut weight. He don't have to cut all that weight. That would make him less powerful, because when you cut weight, you compromise your body, right? Even though you train and you spar at a little less than your walk around weight, and then you cut weight the week of the fight or near to the week of the fight, you cut that weight, right? That extra 20 pounds or 30 pounds or what. Bud didn't have to cut all that weight. Bud walks around at about 182, 185 pounds like me. I'm 5'10" and a half. I'm about 180 something pounds, okay? Which is normal. That's normal weight. Canelo Alvarez, he's same like me. He's 180 something pounds. But remember, these guys are a little different to me and you civilians, in that most of that weight is muscle weight. It's not fat weight, it's muscle weight, right? So Bud is naturally whatever he is. Now, the thing about it is, during that 2 years, he's got to build up the muscle mass like a guy who actually fights at 168. It's a science to this thing, right? So he's in the gym, he's working weights, he's eating a certain diet and nutrition, and he's building that muscle mass that is necessary. So he's sculpting his body. Normally he had a muscle mass where he could fight at 154. So he was growing he naturally outgrew welterweight after he beat Errol Spence. Errol Spence naturally outgrew welterweight. You remember, Errol Spence was supposed to fight Canelo at 160. Y'all remember that? He was supposed to fight Canelo at 160, right? So if Errol Spence could fight Canelo, why couldn't Bud fight Canelo? And y'all was all hyped for that fight. Y'all was like, oh, Errol. And then Bud came in and spoiled that whole thing and destroyed Errol Spence, right? So what I'm saying to y'all is Bud had 2 years to acclimatize to 168 to get his body ready for 168. So while y'all didn't see Bud for 2 years and y'all was thinking he'd be rusty and all of this, Bud was preparing for Canelo. I knew this. The other point I want to make is Bud didn't have to cut all that weight anymore. He didn't have to cut all that weight, right? And Bud's a big guy. He's not like Mayweather. Mayweather's a 155, 160 probably. That's what Mayweather's walk-around weight is. He's a smaller guy than Bud in that respect. Bud walks around 180, 185, 182, 183 like me, okay? I'm 180 something pounds. Okay. I might even be heavier now. I might be 190 something. Okay. And so you have to understand that the difference between Bud and me is Bud is 100. He walk around 180 something pounds. And of that, a good percentage of that is muscle, right? I will have some fat on me and other things, you know what I'm saying? But he walk around, he got muscle, right? So what he did basically is he developed that muscle a little bit more. You know, you train heavier weights, heavier stuff. When you're sparring with bigger guys. Sometimes, I know this sounds crazy, but sometimes Bud would spar with guys with smaller gloves and without headgear. So he could really, truly feel what a 168 pounder is like. And he blocked the punches and stuff. So he literally prepared himself under every single kind of condition you could think of to experience what a 168 pounder would be like. In fact, Bud is a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, he probably could take punches from a guy who's a cruiserweight or 170 pound guy to prepare for Canelo. right? So he'd be sparring these guys, getting punched on the gloves, doing his defense or whatever, and getting punched by them. And probably even training with 10-ounce gloves in that process. Because you got to prepare yourself for that. You can't leave nothing to chance. You can't be like in doubt when a guy hits you at 168. You have to experience that, and you have to experience it under controlled conditions. You see what I'm saying? So this is what Bud did. And then training at high altitude, training under different conditions for different situations, that's how it has to be. And then again, he was with the snack program, so he doesn't have to always go high altitude, but and then to focus in, when he started doing the training camp, he went up to Colorado Springs, where he normally goes, where it's fresh air, it's very clean, it's very quiet. You can meditate, you can think, you can reflect, you can focus, right? Away from his family. So all of this, Bud already had the conditions put in place. They know the winning formula. I'll tell you why. Another thing. So I gave you how many points now? I gave you 1. During that 2 years, he was getting ready for Canelo, right? 2, he didn't have to lose all that weight. So his body wasn't under strain, which is why when you look at him, he looked fully hydrated versus Canelo, who looked dehydrated some, because Canelo is much bigger. He'd gotten used to the weight class. So he actually had to dehydrate himself to come into the ring to fight Bud. Whereas Bud is fully hydrated, right? Because he's moving up in weight and he had to cut less weight. The other thing that I needed to tell you guys, hold on a second. Let me see what's this. Okay. Okay, cool. Another thing you guys need to understand that Bud was prepared for was we talked about he was getting ready for Canelo. We talked about he was fully hydrated, right? Like I said before, that he didn't have to lose all that weight then. And we said that, what did I say? I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. It's 4 things. It'll come back to me. But yeah. So 1, that Bud was Trey Martin says nothing. No. I just drew it happens to me every now and then. I just draw a blank for some reason. There are 4 things. It's 4 things that I was going to say. The first one is he was prepping for Canelo for that 2 years. So he grew into 168. 2, he didn't have to weight drain himself like he used to weight drain himself, right? 3, I told you, he prepped. So his prep would involve actually sparring guys at 168 or above, right? Sparring these guys. And sometimes you want to get the actual in-fight experience. You might even disband. I know this is controversial, but you might disband the 16-ounce gloves, put on normal 10-ounce gloves, like doghouse rules. And you're going for maybe 40 minutes. And you're also no headgear. And you're just going at it with guys, 175 pounders, cruiserweights, 168 pounders, etc. So you want to be able to know these things. You can't leave these things to doubt in your preparation, right? And then the other thing I was going to talk about, so that's 4 things right there. But the other thing I was going to talk about, why I thought that he was going to handle Canelo's power quite well. And I believe Sean Porter and Timothy Bradley had interviews with Terrence Crawford. Because you don't have to lose so much weight, you're going to be stronger, you're going to have better endurance and cardio, and you're going to hit harder. So when you put on muscle properly, and you are in the act of doing a lot of boxing by sparring and high altitude training and all that stuff that goes on, you're able to absorb punches better because you're bigger and everything's put in place properly. Remember, he has proper diet and everything. So this is the other reason why I said he gonna come in the ring healthier than Canelo. You remember Manny Pacquiao and Oscar De La Hoya? That's an extreme version of what I'm talking about. where Oscar dehydrated himself so bad that he had problems. And when you look at Manny Pacquiao, he was fresh, right? That's an extreme version of what we're talking about. Where Canelo has to drain himself because 168, he been at 175. 168, he grew. So Canelo's bigger. As you can see, he's bigger than the weight class now. He's probably 190, right? Comes in 190, something like that. Crawford come in like maybe 180, 181, maybe 170 something. So when you look at that, Trey Martin is talking up his ass. So, my friend, you just earned yourself a timeout. You just earned yourself a timeout, my friend. Right. So like I said before, Terrence Crawford, he came in fresher. And remember, this dude always had great conditioning. So he's being able to prepare himself. He's going to have that great conditioning, be able to absorb certain shots. And then the game plan that he fought with, he really didn't get hit much with anything from Canelo. He did get caught with some good shots, choice shots by Canelo, but not a lot. You know, and then Canelo was basically pot shotting. He was hitting him with one shot at a time, not really 2, 3. In the exchanges, they would do like 2, 3 punches, but Canelo might land 1 or 2, whereas Crawford would be landing like a bunch of punches, right? So all of these reasons are why I never thought that Crawford would fade. I didn't think that, it would be a beat down either, of Canelo beating down Crawford. I just never thought so. And then boxing IQ. When you don't have to lose a whole bunch of weight, you can focus on your boxing, right? You're not in a weight camp, right? So I tried to explain to you guys. Community PC says 168 Canelo. Where do you get 190? Because, my friend, after you weigh in on the scales at 167.5, the next thing you do is rehydrate. So when you come in on fight night, you're rehydrated. And usually you rehydrate 10 pounds, thereabouts, to 10 pounds or more. You may rehydrate way more than 10 pounds, maybe rehydrate to 20 pounds. Canelo, when he was fighting at 154, he'd come in on fight night at 170 something pounds. That's 20 pounds more. Okay? So by that same logic, if you come in at 168, 20 pounds more would give you 188. Crawford walks around 185, 184. These are big guys. They're not small guys. They may have fought at lower weight classes, but they're big guys. Jermell Charlo walks around 180 something pounds. Okay? Even though he fights at 154. These are big guys. Okay? Now, even though you walk around at a certain weight, that may not be your fighting weight. What I mean by that is you may not have developed your muscle mass. You may not have developed your muscle mass such that you could absorb punishment from, say, for example, a 168 pounder who comes in on fight night 190 something pounds. You understand? So that's why Terrence Crawford took 2 years to develop his body into an 168 pound body that could take that kind of punishment. Even if he's blocking the punches, he's still taking the punishment. And so be able to handle the situation. When Jermell Charlo got the opportunity to face Canelo, he didn't have 2 years to get ready for Canelo. He had a couple months to get himself from 154 body to 168 body. He didn't have enough preparation time. If he had enough preparation time, him versus Canelo would have been a different kind of fight. But he couldn't. Think of David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade. The same thing happened here. Demetrius Andrade needed more time to get his body developed into the weight class. He said he wanted 1 or 2 more fights to get it. Terrence Crawford at the time, he had 2 years. You understand? So when I looked at all of those things, all those variables, those 4 different factors I just spoke about, I realized that not only did Terrence Crawford prepare for 168, but he probably had the advantage over Canelo. I thought Canelo would have gassed out. late, and Crawford would have gotten him in all kinds of trouble. That didn't happen. While they traded, Canelo still had his. He did slow down a little bit, but he still had his conditioning. Born number 3 says, when you beat Canelo, you don't care about welterweight or super welterweight champion anymore. Exactly, Born. Exactly. I don't think Crawford's going to go back down to 154 or to welterweight. I think he's going to stay at 168. I think his body has grown into that, and he's 38 years old. For him to shed all that muscle mass that he has developed and his body's development would be crazy. So if there's any kind of fight, it's probably going to be a rematch with Canelo. They probably have a rematch clause. And since this first fight was good, the second fight, I don't know how much better it will be, but just like how Canelo beat Triple G and then dominated Triple G, it's possible. Depends. Crawford might do the same with Canelo. Or Crawford may face somebody else in the 168-pound division, or he may. I don't know. You have to look for, because anything from here on in for Terence Crawford needs to be something worthy of $80 million to $100 million. Terence Crawford now commands the money. Any fight from here on in is a money fight for Terence Crawford. So it has to be worth the money for him to fight the person. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know what will come next. Double Edge Logic says rematches are for close fights only. Well, I mean, on the judges' scorecards, it was a pretty close fight. The judges' scorecard, not mine. I thought it was at least 116, 112. I thought it was more like 117, 111. I thought Crawford won 9 out of the 12 rounds, but that's just my opinion. Double Edge Logic says rematches are for close fights only. Well, you remember, Canelo was the undisputed champion. So if the champ wants a rematch, I mean, he deserves to get a rematch. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't have a problem with it. I know it was a unanimous decision win by Terence Crawford, but according to the judges, at least 2 of them, it was a close fight. He won 7-5. So I mean, if Canelo wants a rematch, he could get it, and he should get it. You know what I mean? But with respect to anything else on the horizon for Terence Crawford, I don't know. It's up to him what he wants to do. If he wants to fight at 160 probably and try and unify there or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what his future lies. I do know Turki Al-Sheikh wants him to fight on so that he could get some more paychecks. I saw Terence Crawford cry, and thank the Most High God, which we all serve. So I'm really grateful for that. Terence is, people say, well, is Terence better than Floyd Mayweather? Is Terence better than Andre Ward? Is it Terence Crawford? You know what? I'm going to say this. This performance is extraordinary. Extraordinary. Okay? So he's up there with all them greats. And he's going to be known in history because he is the first 3-weight undisputed champion. And the shit gets crazier than that when you say, okay, so he was super lightweight champion. Sure. That's junior welterweight. He was welterweight undisputed champion. Sure. And then you jump 3 weight classes up and you find out he was the undisputed super middleweight champion. And you'd be like, what the fuck? That sounds crazy. It just sounds crazy. It's history, and it's incredible history because I'm telling you, there are very few people who could beat Canelo Alvarez. And, Canelo showed us once again that he is that guy. And Terence Crawford just beat that guy, So, the league play says, what do you think of that second fight? What do I think of that second fight? What second fight are you talking about? A rematch? What do I think of a rematch? Yeah, why not? Let him have a rematch. Let Canelo try and redeem himself and get back his title if he can. He'll have to change the game plan, and he's going to have to do something about them feet. Them feet, man. You got to get those feet in order. He's got all kinds of skills and all kinds of ability, but those feet let him down. That's his fundamental flaw. That's his only flaw. He's great at everything else. So he can get that in order. Maybe he can give Terrence a run for his money and make Terrence have to make another adjustment of some kind. But Terrence collected the data and made his adjustment, and that was that. This stream is brought to you by L.I.V.E products. L.I.V.E, live now. We're live now. And I'm going to show you an array of products that we have in our L.I.V.E line. We have L.I.V.E snacks. And this L.I.V.E snack here is granola, raisin, and mint. I don't know if you guys can see that. Do you see it? I don't know if you can see the chocolate, sorry. It's not raisin, sorry. It's granola, chocolate, and mint. So that's L.I.V.E snack, and it's for health. I like to do health stuff. I also have another L.I.V.E snack. This is granola and raisins. Granola and raisins, okay? And then in my L.I.V.E snacks, I also have L.I.V.E nuts. L.I.V.E nuts, which is another great thing that we got here. And we got some trolls out here, man. We got some assholes and trolls out here. Let me sort this guy out here. Put him in timeout again. Right. Mark says, never mind. I don't know what the hell he's trying to say there. Mark. So we got 8 likes. Thank you very much for that. And 26 people are watching this stream. Let me talk a little bit more about the L.I.V.E products as well, because I sell my own brand of snacks, foods, and drinks. We'll be starting to do ice cream soon. This is my L.I.V.E brand here of drinks. We have them in 2 different sizes. We have them in small, and it's only $4 for the small drink. And when you return the bottle, because we recycle the bottles, you get it for $3. I also have punches here. This is the CMOS punch. The drink that you just saw was a sorrel drink, also known as Jamaica, aka Jamaica. And CMOS is very good for you. You can deal with cancers and stuff. I also have something called pumpkin punch. These are the small ones. Pumpkin punch, also very nice. I also have beetroot punch. Natural stuff, man. We try to keep it natural. And we try to keep it, 100%, good stuff. And we also have Morbi here. I do Morbi. I don't know if you guys know what Morbi is. It's sort of bark stuff. I also have the general fruit punches, like fruit punch, orange juice, grapefruit juice, lime, and lemon drinks. So I have all of those. They're in 2 different sizes. I'm gonna show you the small sizes, and then they have the big sizes here. This is a Morbi drink here, and this is what Morbi looks like. It's kind of, when it's not frozen, it's really nice. I also have in the punches peanut punch. I also have peanut punch that we have here. I have some more drinks here. What do we got down here? Yeah, I got pumpkin punch here. Also grapefruit drink. Right, lime, lemon, orange drinks and stuff like that. So I sell drinks. And I sell punches. I can cater also. We can do, for your functions, for your other places. We haven't gone international. We're still local. I live in Trinidad and Tobago. So anybody who lives in the Trinidad and Tobago area, you can check me out for those sorts of drinks, contact information, WhatsApp, whatever. You can message me at this YouTube address here, and we can get it popping. All right. So having said that, it's like 3, almost 4 o'clock in the morning. I spent almost an hour. Any other questions you guys got about Canelo versus Crawford? I know some of you Canelo fans are crying right now. No need to cry, man. Your boy performed. It's just, he came up short. I'm a Canelo fan as well, but I knew that Crawford was going to beat him because I just saw what Crawford was about. I saw what You know, I saw his mindset and everything for this fight, you know, and I knew the deficiencies that Canelo had. Crawford sort of exploited some of that, and he also exploited other things, which I didn't know, you know, and the abilities of Crawford is incredible. So you're looking at the next cash cow of boxing. You're looking at the face of boxing right now, which is Terrence Bud Crawford. He's also the pound for pound king of boxing, undisputably. The way how he beat Canelo looked easy, but it wasn't easy. And the preparation for it wasn't easy. So, you know, great stuff. I think that if there's anything else I need to say here, it's going to be based on you guys. So you guys now, let me know. You got 18 of you right now here. Let's have a discussion. What else you would like to say or talk about? But I just wanted you guys to know in terms of weight, I knew Crawford prepared for this. And I was listening to Sean Porter's interview with Terrence Crawford. I know how people count him out, think, you know, always underestimate him. I don't think anybody's going to underestimate Crawford from here on in. Y'all, if Crawford's fighting anybody, you better bet for Crawford. If you want to not lose your money, bet on Crawford, okay? Crawford's like Mayweather in that respect. He don't fight like Mayweather. He fights in a different kind of way, but he follows the same principles that Mayweather has and all the great fighters, you know, Andre Ward, Mayweather, all the undefeated great fighters. And again, Andre Ward is undefeated for a reason. Mayweather was undefeated for a reason. You know, all the excuses that people make out there, no, these guys were legit. These guys are for real. They can't do what they're doing. You know, you all can make how much excuses you want. These guys knew how to win. You know, Neg Arawak says, I want Boots versus Crawford. I'm betting on Boots. I think Crawford's a little too big for Boots right now. And Boots will have to come up to 168, you know, or maybe, I don't know, 168 and try and become undisputed at 168. You can face Crawford at 168. I don't think it makes any sense for Crawford to fight Boots. Look where Crawford is. He's at 168 right now. So unless Boots wants to put on some muscle and come up to 168 and fight Crawford, I mean, it ain't making no sense right now. You know, Crawford's at 168. Will he come down to 154? I wouldn't advise such a thing. I don't know if he will, but I wouldn't advise it because you have to learn how to lose weight and lose weight properly. And that takes some discipline. It's easy to put on weight. It's easy to put on muscle. It's harder to take off muscle and be the same. You know, you saw what happened to Roy Jones Jr. and a number of other guys. So that's not something I would advise. I would advise Crawford to stay at 168 or if you're going to lose weight, maybe go down one weight class to 160, maybe as much as that, or do a catch weight in between. But I don't suggest that now that you put on muscles. It's like saying Manny Pacquiao should go down to super featherweight. No, Manny Pacquiao can't come down to super featherweight. For me, once he went up to welterweight, that was it. He'd be a welterweight for the rest of his life. You know what I'm saying? And he's Crawford's like 38 years old. What do you think this is? You think it's easy to take off weight at that age? No. That's where he can destroy himself. Putting on weight is one thing at 38. Taking it off is another thing. Dranny says, respect to Crawford, man. He proved me wrong. No excuses. I told y'all, put your money on Crawford. Y'all wasn't listening to me. Y'all don't listen to me. Listen, I got burned too. You know, I doubted Crawford on I thought that Sean Porter would beat him. Nope. Stop Sean Porter. Okay. You know, well, I betted against Crawford a couple times. When Crawford was calling out Errol Spence after he had beaten Jeff Horn, I was like, who's Jeff Horn? You know what I'm saying? I don't think Spence would beat up Crawford. Too big, right? And then, of course, on the time of the fight, I didn't know. And I you know, people still use the excuse that Spence got in an accident. No. He fought Ugas the fight before. Neg Arawak says catch weight with Boots. Yeah, but you see, if he's still gonna be at 168, 160, you know, Boots will have to go up 2 weight classes. That's if Boots really want it. You know what I'm saying? Is that a big money fight right now? I don't think so. But I don't know if people are still intrigued to see Boots. It's like asking me, Should we see Jamel Charlo versus Terrence Crawford? Don't want to see it. You know, Crawford just beat Canelo. Canelo. Why would we want to see him face Boots? Oh, that's gonna be amusing because Boots is a switch hitter. Boots, but Boots is not Canelo. Like, you need somebody of the stature of a Canelo or something like that. You need something that get people thinking, oh yeah, Crawford can lose this fight. Boots coming up to 168 or 165, 164, or 160 to fight Crawford. We already know Crawford gonna beat his ass. We already know that. I don't need to see that. Crawford gonna have the weight advantage? Nah, I don't want to see that. Crawford knock Mike. I don't know if he'll knock Boots out, but he'll beat his ass up. And Neg ROX says Boots is naturally big. They're all melting down, but Boots wouldn't have time. You gotta Boots need 2 years to grow into 168. Are you not listening to me? Do you guys not listen? You guys use your brain? Plus, who is Boots? Who's Boots? Why would Crawford fight Boots? For what? How is that a big money making fight? Like, y'all not thinking. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all not. It's not registering, is it? That's like saying Jamel Charlo is more accomplished than Boots, right? Now I know guys want to see Crawford versus Boots, but that time kind of sailed away when Crawford fought Canelo. Why would Crawford go back? Like, when he did fight Canelo and he was at super welterweight, yeah, Crawford versus Boots. But to me, that ship has sailed because, yeah, Boots sparred Canelo and all of that, but that ship has sailed because Boots is nowhere near 168. And it takes you about 2 years to acclimatize to that weight class. Well, we're going to wait 2 years? Or we're going to just throw Boots in there with Crawford? You know who Crawford is? Crawford's devastated, man. You go wrong. And then he got all this power now because he got all this muscle mass. That's not right, man. That's like doing the Jamel Charlo Canelo Alvarez thing where instead of Boots, surviving, he going to get knocked out. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. Because why should Crawford come down in weight to beat Boots? Why should he do that at 38 years old? Come on, man. Enos Hudson says Crawford is the best. Scooby Snackitiv. What is this? Snacktivist? Okay. Snacktivist. Okay. Scooby Snacktivist says no one under 168 should even speak on Crawford, especially them PBC bums. I'm not saying they're bums. Jerome Ennis is a hell of a fighter. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, and not many people are going to do what Crawford did. And Crawford had the time to develop into that. You know what I'm saying? Neg Arak says, I understand the business side. CC Motion 1998 says, what's good, brother? What's good, my brother? Neg Arak says, Boots sells out in Philly. Yeah, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying he sells out in Philly. Canelo sells out in countries. Canelo's a pay-per-view star. Canelo sells out anywhere he goes. He has country behind him. You know what I'm saying? Who's Boots? I just fought Canelo. That's what Bud's going to be saying. I just fought Canelo. I just became the cash cow. Am I going to now fight a nobody? Boots is like a nobody compared to Crawford now. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have the fight. I just think that Boots will need time to prepare for a fight like that. You need time to prepare for a fight like that. Boots is at most a 154 pounder right now. He's not in no way, shape, or form is he a 168 pounder. And then Crawford got that power to knock you out at 168 now. So, that's unfair. That's not going to be a fair fight. Neg Arak says Boots is one of the best sellers in American boxing. I mean, no. You do understand Terrence Crawford just fought Canelo in an arena. An arena. You do understand Bud for Errol Spence in an arena. I want you to understand that. Boots is never fought in an arena. Boots is still up and coming. Boots has become welterweight champion. But I mean, come on now. Scooby Snacktivist says they shat all over Crawford. Yeah, they've been disrespecting him. Now they got to give him his respect. They got to give him his respect. The hater said Canelo got spanked. Yep. Bud, he stung him up. He stung him up, you know. Scooby's Snacktivist says Boots may not be special. He's good against special fighters, but Boots looks bad against our fighters. I wouldn't say that. He's a special fighter. Nagarak number 1 says, I understand that. Scooby Snacktivist says, outfighters. I mean, Boots does what he do. You know, he does what he does. I don't know if he has a strong inside game like Terrence Crawford, but he does what he does. You know what I'm saying? And he's still a young fighter, and he's got a ways to go before he can get to the to the Crawford sweepstakes. Because now Crawford's the dude. You know, he's the cash cow. I think what you'll see is Crawford rematch Canelo. That's more than likely going to happen. Crawford may stick around to face a guy like maybe Demetrius Andrade at 168 or somebody in his weight class. Maybe Caleb Plant, you know, Demetrius Andrade. Who else is there? Or some mandatory to Canelo maybe or something like that. But where can Bud get another big fight? Because Turkey Al-Sheikh, he wants Bud to fight on, and he wants Bud to make some more money and be the face of this new company that they're trying to start. So, I mean, you know, he will want Bud to fight on a little bit longer. 38 is like the cap where somebody should be fighting. So Bud preserved his body pretty well. So Bud may fight on for another year or so and hopefully produce some good money while he's there. Father Time is undefeated, so he has to be careful. But Terrence Bud Crawford is not a guy that's going to take on a fight where he's not going to ensure that you know, the best possible way or means he can win that fight. He's not going to take on a fight or take on an opponent where he's not going to do everything in his power to win. So that's the thing about Bud and Floyd and Andre. You know, these guys don't leave much to chance. You know, and Bud's thanking the Most High God as well. So, you know, those guys, you know, they trust in God. And Bud gave God all the credit too. So I thought it was really nice. Well, we are an hour and 8 minutes in. If you guys got anything else for me to say, Nagarak says, but Boots versus Bud is still a fight that boxing fans want to see other than a rematch with Canelo. Yeah, but it's going to have to be at 168. They're going to have to be at 168 or 160. You know? So if Boots is willing to do that, yeah, we might see that fight. But it's going to be, in my opinion, a disadvantage to Boots because Boots hasn't grown into that weight yet. He might be big like that, but he hasn't grown into it, you know? CC Motion 1998 says, what if Bud fought David Benavidez? That would be dope. Thing about that is, I don't think David can make 168 right now, you know? That would have to be at 175, and that would have to be worth Bud's while for something like that to happen. You know, because Bud's already at 168. To push him to try and get to 175 and fight somebody, that's gonna be intense. Negarak says, I honestly think Bud might retire or fight one more time. I think Bud got about 2 fights in him. So a rematch with Canelo and probably one more fight. One more big fight. It got to be a big fight because this is the end of Bud's career. Something big, something massive, something that makes everybody go, wow, that'd be crazy. You know, something like that. I don't know what it would be. Turkey Al-Sheikh, I'm sure, and Bud would come up with something. And that would probably be Excuse me. That'd probably be Bud's last fight. CC Motion 1998 says, does this fight put Bud above Floyd all time? I don't know if it puts him above Floyd, because Floyd got a lot of volume. Floyd fought a lot of, great fighters like Canelo, Hall of Famers like Canelo. Right? Bud's got two. I don't know if Errol will go into the Boxing Hall of Fame. It depends on how his career goes when he comes back. I think he's going to be fighting Jamel Charlo, so we'll see. But Bud got a certified Hall of Famer in Canelo Alvarez. Bob Arum denied him the Pacquiao fight, so he never got to face Manny Pacquiao to have that Hall of Famer on his resume, unfortunately for him. But the good news is he's gotten one of the greatest fighters of our era, of this new era, in Canelo Alvarez. He's beaten him, so he's up there with Floyd, though. He's up there with Floyd, that's for sure. Neg Arawak says Floyd actually fought around his actual weight. That's different. No. Floyd started off at super feather. You guys forgot that? He grew into a welterweight. Right? Bud started off at, remember, Bud's walk around weight is 180 something, like Canelo. Floyd's walk around weight is 150 something. Okay? So Floyd fought all the way up till 150 something, till Floyd couldn't put on no more weight. Floyd never reached the weight limit in super welterweight. He never made 154. Bud, made 168. Easy. Right? Bud hasn't still fought all the way up to his natural weight. Remember, Bud's walk around weight is 180 something, so it's possible Bud could fight at light heavyweight, but I don't know. See? So, I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, Bud's different. And yeah, he's in the question now. In terms of all-time greats, does this guy rank above Floyd? Is a great question. Is he on the level of Floyd? I think he's on the level of Floyd. And honestly, I'll be honest with y'all. Bud always talked about dream fights. He would love to see Mike Tyson versus Muhammad Ali. He would love to see Sugar Ray Leonard versus, who did he say? I think he said Pernell Whitaker. What did he say? Pernell Whitaker versus Roberto Duran, I think, or Henry Armstrong versus Roberto. I can't remember. I can't remember who it was versus Roberto Duran. I think he said Pernell Whitaker. He said himself versus Floyd Mayweather. So you'd have loved to have had that fight. I think Bud beats Floyd, to be honest with you. Neg Arak says Floyd is losing 5 to 7 pounds to make 147. That's the difference. Because, again, the weight class, welterweight, is around his walk-around weight. So his walk-around weight is like 155, somewhere thereabouts, Floyd. And his fighting weight was 147. So he was a 147-pounder. Bud is a much bigger guy. So, if his walk-around weight is 180-something, then he could fight at 160-something, 180-something is like what? It's like maybe 10, 15 pounds above. So, Bud's a much bigger guy. So anyways, that's what I got for you guys. I'm What You Need. I thought I would talk about this fight. If you guys got anything else you want to talk with me about concerning Canelo versus Crawford, feel free to do so now before I wrap it up. It is very early in the morning. I need to get some sleep. But I thought it was a good fight. And, Canelo impressed me. He impressed me with some of the things he did in that fight. He did. Even though he lost the fight, he really impressed me. And Crawford, just validated what I thought was going to happen anyway. I thought he was going to beat him. And the downfall for Canelo, as always, has been his footwork, his foot activity particularly. So shout out to Terrence Crawford. Praise be to God for carrying him on this journey, how far he has gone. And hopefully in the future we'll know what else is going to happen with Crawford, but it's going to be whatever fight happens with Crawford, it's got to be a big fight. It got to be a massive fight. Crawford got to get paid now. So if he got 50 mil for this fight, next fight, you're looking at 80 mil, 100 mil, something like that. So Crawford is on his way. He is the cash cow of boxing now. Now the ball is in his court. It looks like he will have a rematch with Canelo first, and then probably 1 or 2 more fights, and that's it. That'll be it for his career. And I truly believe no one beats Crawford. Nagarak says Canelo lost because he doesn't use his jab. I mean, he tried to use his jab. It's just that Crawford nullified his jab. He tried. But Crawford kept on nullifying it. Nagaro says, and forgot how to punch in combination. No, he fought in combinations. He was fighting in combinations, 8 round, 9, 10, 11, 12. He was fighting in combinations. Just Crawford had the better of the exchanges. That's the thing, So he fought in combinations. I told you, Canelo fought good. He fought good. Crawford just fought better. That's really what happened. Canelo fought good. He fought really good. And in many respects, that was the best Canelo I'd seen in a little while. But he was always fighting steps behind Crawford. He was always behind in points, in rounds won, all of that stuff. He was behind. So he has to work on those things. All right, people, I got to get out of here. I am what you need. It was nice talking with you guys, also known as Anson Phillip. I also talk about the Chicago Bulls these days, and Scottie Pippen particularly, I emphasize on. You guys can check out my videos of that on my channel. If you guys want to subscribe to this channel, feel free. If you want to donate to this channel via PayPal, inbox me and I'll send you the link. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.